I pushed open the door to the Cloudtop Cafe. A woman sat at table 7 by the window. I walked over, pulled out the chair across from her, and sat down. She glanced up, her eyes lingering on me for a second. "You're 3 minutes late." I looked down at the text on my phone. "Carol. Hey, Leo, sweetie. I set you up at the Cloudtop Cafe, table number 7. She's a great girl. Don't be late." I put my phone down. "Sorry, traffic was a nightmare." She slid a file across the table toward me. "Take a look." I opened it. AGRE Me and Tea Party A. Isabella, Thorn Party B. Term, 1 year compensation, $1 million US. I flipped to the next page. It detailed Party B's duties and responsibilities. A fake boyfriend. Is there a problem? She lifted her coffee cup and took a delicate sip. Carol didn't mention. Carol? She set the cup down, an eyebrow twitching. "You're not the man, Mr. Davison sent over." My phone buzzed. It was Carol. "Carol, Leo, honey, she had something come up last minute. She's at table 8 now. You're at the right table, right?" I glanced at the number on my table. 7. I looked back at the woman across from me. She was looking at me, too. "I'm at the wrong table," I said, starting to stand up. "Sit down." I sat back down. "Do you need money?" she asked. My phone buzzed again. A text from the hospital's billing department. "Seacliff City General Hospital. Mr. Leo Foster, this is a reminder that the account for your sister, Chloe Foster, is past due. Please remit payment within 3 days to avoid interruption of care." I pressed the power button, darkening the screen. "Yes." "Then sign it." Her finger tapped the document. "Why me? You look average. Safe. And most importantly, you're desperate." She placed a pen on top of the file. I picked it up and wrote my name on the line for Party B. Leo Foster. "Good." She retrieved the file and put it in her handbag. "This is your advance." She pulled a debit card from her purse and pushed it across the table. "Pin is 6/8. Be at this address tomorrow morning at 9. She handed me a business card. Isabella Thorn, CEO, Thorn Industries address, 1 Skylight Peak, Seacliff City. She stood, picked up her bag, and walked away without a second glance. I took the card and walked out of the cafe. I rang the doorbell at 1 Skylight Peak. The door opened. Isabella Thorn stood there, dressed in a silk robe, her hair casually tied up. "Come in." I followed her into the living room. A woman in a sharp business suit stood up from the couch. She looked me up and down, her gaze piercing. "Isabella, this is the boyfriend you were talking about. Victoria Vance. My assistant and best friend," Isabella introduced. Victoria circled me like a shark. "What's your name?" "Leo Foster." "And what do you do for a living?" "I'm a delivery guy." The corner of Victoria's mouth twitched into a sneer. "Are you serious, Isabella? You could have pulled a random guy off the street and done better than a delivery driver." Isabella sat on the sofa, picking up a glass of water. "He's perfect for the role." Victoria stepped in front of me, poking a finger into my chest. "I'm warning you. Don't get any bright ideas. This is a job. Get paid, do the work." "Got it." I looked down at her finger. "Got it." Victoria withdrew her hand and sat down next to Isabella. "Fine, if you've made up your mind. Where's he staying?" "The guest room at the east end of the 2nd floor," Isabella said. "I'll go put my things away," I said, lifting the backpack at my feet. "Wait," Isabella said. I stopped. "You're making dinner." "Me? The contract states you're responsible for a portion of the household chores." "Is that a problem?" "No problem." I headed to the kitchen. The refrigerator was fully stocked. I pulled out a steak, some asparagus, arugula, and a lemon. I washed the vegetables, then started prepping. The rhythmic chop of the knife against the cutting board filled the silence. Victoria and Isabella stood at the kitchen entrance. "He can cook." Victoria's voice was laced with surprise. Isabella didn't respond. I heated a pan, seared the steak, and basted it with butter and herbs. I roasted the asparagus and tossed a simple salad. Soon, dinner was on the table. A perfectly cooked steak with a pan sauce, roasted asparagus, and an arugula salad with a light vinaigrette. Victoria picked up her fork, cutting off a piece of steak and putting it in her mouth. Her chewing paused for a moment. Then she took a bite of asparagus. "Well?" Isabella asked. "It's decent, I guess," Victoria said, putting her fork down. "A little better than most restaurants." She then picked her fork back up and took another large bite of the steak. Isabella also began to eat, taking small, measured bites. I served myself and sat across from them, eating in silence. A black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the entrance of the Seacliff Grand Hotel. The chauffeur opened the door. Isabella stepped out, stunning in a silver evening gown. I followed her out of the car, still in my t-shirt and jeans. The doorman stopped me. "Sir, may I see your invitation?" Isabella looked back over her shoulder. "He's with me." A flicker of surprise crossed the doorman's face, but he bowed and let us pass. We entered the ballroom. The air buzzed with a mix of soft music, conversations, and the clinking of glasses. Every eye in the room turned toward us. First to Isabella, then to me. The whispers started immediately. Isn't that Isabella Thorn from Thorn Industries? Who's the guy with her? He's dressed like he just rolled out of bed. I'll never understand her taste in men. Isabella held a glass of champagne, her expression unreadable. A man in a white designer suit approached us, smiling. Isabella, you finally made it. His smile froze when he saw me. And who is this? My boyfriend, Leo Foster, Isabella said. The man let out a short, derisive laugh. Isabella, don't be ridiculous. Where'd you hire this extra? The acting is terrible. You couldn't even spring for a wardrobe change. He turned to me, his eyes full of contempt. Hey pal, what's your day rate? I'll double it. Get lost. I said nothing. I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? The man said, his voice rising. Chadwick, mind your manners. Isabella's voice turned cold. Chadwick Vanderbilt held up his hands. Okay, I'll drop it. Don't be mad, Isabella. Come on, I want to show you a fantastic project. Guaranteed moneymaker. Chadwick snapped his fingers. An assistant hurried over with a laptop, displaying a PowerPoint presentation. Check this out, he boasted. Elysian Fields, a fully immersive VR metaverse. The Vanderbilts led the seed round with $50 million. The valuation has already tripled. The potential is limitless. His voice was a magnetic draw. People started gathering around, murmuring in admiration. Chadwick looked at Isabella triumphantly, then shot me another glance. What do you think? Hey, pal, ever even heard of a project this big? You couldn't make a fraction of this in a lifetime of deliveries. He pointed at me, laughing to the crowd. Everyone, take a look. This is Isabella's new boyfriend. Tell me, does he look like he belongs with the queen of Seacliff City? The crowd erupted in laughter. Isabella's hand tightened around her champagne flute. Chadwick was still grandstanding. And our user data showed explosive growth in Q3, a 300% increase quarter over quarter. A chart on the screen showed a near vertical line soaring upward. The crowd applauded. Chadwick's gaze fell on me, full of provocation. This, Mr. Foster, you must be a business prodigy yourself. Why don't you enlighten us mortals with your expert opinion? More laughter. Isabella turned to me, her eyes warning me to stay quiet. I picked up a glass of juice and took a sip. Your project's going to crash. My voice wasn't loud, but the entire ballroom fell silent. The smile on Chadwick's face froze. What did you just say? I set the juice glass down. I said, your project is going to crash. And what makes you say that? Chadwick's voice was sharp, high-pitched. I pointed at a data table on the screen. Your Q3 cash flow statement shows marketing expenses increased by only 8%. But your user acquisition data claims a 300% increase. I paused. Unless your users are falling out of the sky, your numbers are fake. The color drained from Chadwick's face. That's absurd. What does a delivery boy know about cash flow? He doesn't know, and neither do I. A balding man next to him chimed in. Mr. Vanderbilt's project has been vetted by a top-tier Wall Street team. Exactly. Just trying to get attention. I didn't say another word. Isabella grabbed my wrist. We're leaving. We walked out of the ballroom. The next day, in the villa's living room, the massive flat-screen TV was tuned to the financial news channel. Isabella sat on the couch, reviewing a document. A cup of tea sat in front of me. The news anchor's voice filled the room. And in our top story, the highly anticipated Elysian Fields project was exposed this morning in a massive financial fraud scandal. Its parent company's stock plummeted at the opening bell, and the SEC has launched a full investigation. Lead investor Vanderbilt Enterprises is projected to lose over $1 billion. The screen showed footage of Chadwick Vanderbilt being swarmed by reporters, looking utterly defeated. Isabella put down the file she was holding. She turned her head and looked at me. After a long moment, she spoke. How did you know? I lifted my teacup, blowing on the steam. The numbers didn't add up. Victoria hurried into the living room, holding a tablet. Isabella, I ran a background check. She handed the tablet to Isabella. Leo Foster, 25. Orphan, grew up in the Seacliff City foster system. 3 years ago, his sister, Chloe, was diagnosed with leukemia. He dropped out of college to work. He's been a waiter, a mover, a delivery driver. Social circle is small, no connections, no background to speak of. Isabella scrolled through the information, a small frown on her face. That's it. Victoria threw her hands up. He's a blank slate. But she glanced at me, out on the balcony watering the plants. A delivery guy who can spot a fatal flaw in a financial statement at a glance? I don't buy it. Isabella said nothing. She turned off the tablet and set it on the table. That night, the light in the study was still on. I pushed the door open, carrying a mug of hot milk. Isabella was at her desk, staring at her computer screen. One hand was at her temple, massaging it gently. I placed the mug quietly beside her hand, careful not to make sound. I turned to leave. Wait. I stopped. She didn't turn around, her eyes still fixed on the screen. Who? Are you really? Leo Foster, I said. That's not what I mean. A guy who needs money to save his sister. Silence descended on the study, broken only by the low hum of the computer. Its light cast shifting shadows on her face. After a moment, she spoke. Thank you for the milk. I closed the door. Through the crack, I saw her pick up the mug and take a small sip. The next morning, as I was about to leave, Isabella stopped me. Where are you going? To the hospital to see my sister. I'll have my driver take you. No need, the bus is fine. I opened the door. Wait, she said again. She took a card from her wallet and handed it to me. This is this month's salary. Take it now. I looked at the card. The agreement said payment is at the end of the month. It's an advance. Her tone left no room for argument. I took the card. Thanks. I closed the door and left the villa. The phones in Isabella's office were ringing off the hook. Victoria burst in, a frantic look on her face. Isabella, it's bad. She slapped her tablet down on the desk. On the screen, the stock chart for Thorn Industries was a single, vertical red line pointing straight down. The market's only been open for 30 minutes, and we've already hit the circuit breaker. We're limit down. Isabella stared at the screen, her face pale. Do we know who's shorting US? We do. Victoria's voice trembled. It's the Vanderbilts. They've partnered with a vulture fund from Wall Street. They're dumping our stock on the market, creating a full-blown panic. The office door flew open. The CFO ran in, sweat beading on his forehead. Ms. Thorn, the banks are all calling in our loans. They're saying they need to reevaluate our credit rating. Several of our major partners are pulling their funding from our biggest projects. Our cash flow, it's about to dry up completely. The bad news was a tidal wave. Isabella reached for her water glass, her hand shaking so much that water sloshed over the rim. Get every executive in the boardroom. Emergency meeting now. Her voice was unsteady. It was dark when I got back to the villa. The living room was unlit. Isabella was sitting alone on the sofa, a long silhouette cast by the moonlight through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Several empty wine bottles sat on the coffee table. I walked over and flipped on a lamp. She looked up, her eyes bloodshot. You're back. I nodded. Trouble at the company? She didn't answer, just picked up a bottle and poured herself another glass. When my father gave me this company, Thorn Industries was the titan of Seacliff City. She downed a glass in one go. Now it's going to die in my hands. Her voice cracked. Chadwick, he just wants to see me with nothing. She poured another glass and held it out to me. Have a drink with me. I took the glass. It's going to be okay. She laughed, a bitter, self-mocking sound. How? We're under attack from all sides. The board. Those old dinosaurs are calling an emergency meeting tomorrow to force me out. She buried her face in her knees. I looked at her, then set my glass on the table. I walked over, gently took the wine glass from her hand, and replaced it with a glass of warm water. Drink this first. The top-floor boardroom at Thorn Industries was packed. The massive oval table was surrounded by the company's directors and veteran executives. Isabella sat at the head, her face drawn and weary. Victoria stood behind her. A white-haired director slammed a file on the table. Isabella, look at this. Our stock has been limit down for 3 days straight. We've lost $30 billion in market value. Is this the report card you're handing us? He was Arthur Sterling, a company old-timer and a former colleague of her father. Mr. Sterling, this was a malicious attack from the Vanderbilts. It was sudden, Victoria tried to explain. I don't care what kind of attack it was. Sterling cut her off. All I know is that under her leadership, this company is headed for ruin. I propose we immediately remove Isabella Thorn as CEO. I will take over on an interim basis and negotiate with the Vanderbilts. I agree with Arthur's proposal. Another director chimed in. I agree as well. For the good of the company, someone has to take responsibility. A chorus of agreement rose around the table. Isabella sat frozen, her knuckles white. Uncles, gentlemen, she said, standing up. Thorn Industries was my father's life's work. I will not let it be destroyed. Please, just give me a little more time. I know I can find a solution. Time? Sterling scoffed. Do we have time? The banks are downstairs right now, demanding payment. In another hour, our positions are going to be forcibly liquidated. What solution could you possibly have? He stood, leaning on the table, glaring at her. Isabella, I suggest you resign. At least you'll be able to walk away with some dignity. An internal line rang. Victoria answered it, and the color drained from her face. She hung up and whispered to Isabella, Isabella, the Vanderbilts. They've sent a hostile takeover bid. Their offer is only 30% of our normal market valuation. The room erupted. It was corporate rating, plain and simple. Isabella swayed, grabbing the table to steady herself. A smug smile crept onto Sterling's face. You all see? This is our last chance. Now we'll put to a vote. All in favor of removing Isabella Thorn from the position of CEO, please raise your hand. Sterling's was the first hand in the air. 1, 2, 3. More hands shot up around the room. Isabella closed her eyes. The boardroom doors swung open. I walked in. All heads turned to me. Who are you? Sterling bellowed. Who let you in here? Security. I ignored him and walked straight to the head of the table. Isabella opened her eyes, staring at me in disbelief. I placed a flash drive on the table and slid it in front of her. What is this? She asked. See for yourself. Victoria immediately plugged the drive into a laptop and connected it to the projector. A video appeared on the screen. It was hidden camera footage of Arthur Sterling meeting with Chadwick Vanderbilt in a private club. In the video, Chadwick hands Sterling a bank card. Next, several documents filled the screen. Offshore account statements belonging to Sterling, clearly showing a massive wire transfer from a Vanderbilt holding company. Then, a series of emails between him and Chadwick, detailing the entire plot to short Thorn Industries and how they would divide the spoils. The room was dead silent. All the blood drained from Sterling's face. It's fake. All of it is fabricated, he shrieked, pointing at the screen. I looked at him calmly. I've already sent a copy to the SEC. Sterling's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his chair. Just then, the boardroom doors burst open again. A trader from the finance floor ran in, clutching his phone, his face ecstatic. Ms. Thorn. Ms. Thorn. The stock. Our stock. He held his phone out for everyone to see. On the screen, the stock chart for Thorn Industries, which had been flatlining at its lowest point, now featured a single, vertical green line shooting straight for the ceiling. An unbelievable pillar of green, rocketing from limit down to limit up in an instant. What's happening? A director gasped. The trader was out of breath. A buy order. An impossibly huge buy order just swept the market. It bought up every single share for sale. All of them. The stock is now locked at limit up. A mystery buyer? Who? Who's helping us? Isabella was on her feet, her voice trembling with disbelief. Everyone stared at the bright green line on the screen as if it were a miracle. Even Sterling forgot his predicament, muttering, Who has that kind of capital? I walked over to the projection screen, looking at the line that represented billions of dollars. I turned back to face the room. Excuse me, I said, that mystery fund. I think it's mine. The air in the boardroom froze. Every single eye was fixed on me. Arthur Sterling's mouth hung open. Pins clattered onto the table as they slipped from the director's fingers. Isabella turned her head slowly, her eyes wide. I gave her a slight nod, then walked to the head of the conference table. I picked up the remote and clicked a button. The stock chart vanished, replaced by a bank transfer record. Mr. Davies, the account ending in 8846 is your offshore account in the Caymans, correct? The man I addressed went pale. You're lying. I don't know what you're talking about. I clicked the remote again. An audio waveform appeared on the screen. A man's voice, Chadwick Vanderbilt's, filled the room. And once this is done, I guarantee your position and the Vanderbilt's influence within Thorn Industries. Another voice replied, Don't worry, Mr. Vanderbilt. Isabella is in over her head. I'll see to it she's out of the boardroom by the end of the day. It was Davies' voice. He shot up from his chair, pointing at me. Fabrication. That's a deep fake. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Security? I need a detail sent to the 27th floor conference room. Mr. Davies needs to be escorted out to cooperate with an investigation. I hung up. Before Davies could protest further, the door opened and 2 security guards entered, flanking him on either side. Let me go. Get your hands off me. Thorn. Foster. You'll regret this. His shouts faded down the hall. The boardroom was silent. I dialed another number. Marcus, you can close the net. A voice on the other end replied, Yes, sir. I switched the projector back to the live stock chart. The red line had disappeared entirely, replaced by a steep, ascending green cliff face as one massive buy order after another devoured every available share. We're locked at limit up, one of the remaining directors yelled. I turned off the projector and walked back to Isabella's side. She was still sitting, just looking at me. Meeting adjourned. Ms. Thorn, shall we go home? She didn't speak, just stood up. I pulled her chair out for her. We walked out of the room together, leaving a wake of shock and silence behind us. Back at the villa, Victoria wasn't there. It was just Isabella and me in the living room. She sat on the sofa, her hands folded in her lap. I poured 2 glasses of water and placed one in front of her. She stared at me. "Who are you?" I took a sip of my water. "Leo Foster, your boyfriend by contract. My $1 million fake boyfriend, who just saved my company with what looked like $5 billion. She picked up her glass, but didn't drink. "So now I'm your majority shareholder. Ms. Thorn, it'll be a pleasure working with you. Why did you help me?" "It's in the contract." "No, it's not." My phone vibrated. I glanced at the text. "Sir, the Vanderbilts have contacted an offshore mercenary group called Ghost. You and Ms. Thorn are the likely targets." I put my phone away. "Is something wrong?" Isabella asked. "Just some loose ends from the Vanderbilts." I stood and walked toward the kitchen. "For the next few days, don't go anywhere by yourself." "Why?" "Because I'd worry." I pulled ingredients from the fridge. I could feel her eyes on my back as I worked. I chopped, lit the stove, and started cooking, the only sounds being the sizzle of the pan and the clang of utensils. I brought the finished meal to the table. 2 dishes and a soup. I served 2 bowls of rice, placing one in front of her. "Let's eat." She picked up her fork and took a bite. We finished the entire meal in a comfortable silence. She set her fork down. "Thank you. You're welcome." She looked at me for a long time. "Are you coming to the office tomorrow?" "Of course. I'm a majority shareholder." The underground parking garage was empty. Level B3 was a cavern of concrete and humming fluorescent lights. I walked half a step behind Isabella's right shoulder. A light overhead flickered. A black van shot out from around a corner, tires screeching as it swerved to block our path. The side door slid open and 5 men in black ski masks jumped out, each holding a knife. I pulled Isabella behind me. "Don't move." The leader pointed his knife at me. "Give us the woman and you can walk. Get lost." He waved his hand. All 5 rushed me. The first man lunged, stabbing at my stomach. I twisted away, driving my elbow into the back of his neck. He crumpled. The second and third closed in from my sides. I took a step back, my foot lashing out to kick the wrist of the man on my left. His knife went flying. The man on the right sliced through the sleeve of my jacket. I grabbed his arm, spun, and used his body as a shield against the 4th man's attack. He grunted and went limp. I snatched the knife from his hand and threw it, the handle smacking the 5th man square in the forehead. It was over in 10 seconds. 4 down, 1 to go. The leader looked at his fallen men, then at me. Suddenly, he lunged past me, going for Isabella. I moved faster, stepping in front of her. The knife sank into my left bicep. My right hand, balled into a fist, connected with his jaw. He flew backward, slammed against the van, and slid to the ground. I pulled the knife from my arm and dropped it. Blood welled up, staining my white shirt crimson. I turned to Isabella. "Are you okay?" Her eyes were wide, staring at my arm, then at my face. She reached out, her fingertips trembling as she touched the wound. "You're bleeding." "It's just a scratch. Let's go." I took her other hand and led her to our car. She didn't resist. Her head just kept turning back to look at my bleeding arm. In a VIP room at the hospital, the doctor had already stitched and bandaged my arm. Now, Isabella was carefully rewrapping it with fresh gauze. Her movements were feather-light. The room was quiet. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why what?" "Why'd you take that knife from me?" "You're just my boyfriend by contract." Page 1, Section 3 of the agreement. Party B is obligated to ensure Party A's personal safety. She looked up, meeting my eyes. "That's not in the contract." She finished the knot and snipped the gauze. Her hand remained on my arm. "My name is Leo Foster, of the Fosters, of New York." Her fingers flinched. 3 years ago, I made a deal with my family. They gave me 3 years to prove I could make it on my own, without any of their resources. If I succeeded, I could choose my own path. If I failed, I had to go back, accept an arranged marriage, and take over the family business. I looked at her. So, I became a delivery driver, lived in a cheap apartment, went on blind dates. And then I sat down at your table. Her expression shifted. "So you've been lying to me from the very beginning?" "The blind date was an accident. Saving you was real. And staying by your side. That's real, too." I lifted my uninjured hand and gently touched her cheek. She didn't pull away. "Isabella, we can tear up our contract now." She just looked at me, silent. "Because I don't want to be your fake boyfriend anymore." I paused. "I want to be your real one." A single tear escaped the corner of her eye, rolling down her cheek and landing on my arm. When we returned to the villa, an older man in a severe, high-collared suit was sitting on the sofa. He sat bolt upright, his expression stern. He stood the moment he saw me. "Young master." "Mister." Jennings, what are you doing here? His gaze flickered past me to Isabella. Your grandfather sent me to bring you home. The 3-year agreement has been fulfilled ahead of schedule. My time isn't up yet. The family is aware of everything you've accomplished in Seacliff City. Your grandfather is very pleased with your capabilities. Jennings's eyes landed on Isabella again, this time with a cold, appraising look. However, this young woman does not meet the standards for the future matriarch of the Foster family. Isabella stiffened beside me. Jennings produced a blank check from his pocket, placed it on the coffee table, and slid it toward Isabella. Ms. Thorn, name your price. Leave our young master. Isabella stared at the check, her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't speak, just looked at me. I picked up the check and tore it in half in front of Jennings. Mr. Jennings, my life is my own to decide. Young master. His voice sharpened. This is an order from your grandfather. Are you going to defy the entire family for a woman? This isn't defiance. I took Isabella's hand. It was cold. This is a notification. Jennings's face was grim. Sir, do you have any idea what the consequences will be? I pulled Isabella in front of me. Mr. Jennings, go back and tell my grandfather that the Foster family rules are outdated. From now on, my rules are the new rules. This is treasonous. I ignored him. I looked into Isabella's eyes and dropped to one knee. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Isabella Thorn, I don't have a ring, and I don't have flowers. But I'm asking you right now, will you marry me? Her eyes turned red, tears welling up. She looked at me, then at the stunned Mr. Jennings. You don't have to meet the Foster family standards. I will build you an empire greater than theirs, and you will be its only queen. She nodded fiercely, tears streaming down her face. Yes. I stood and took her hand. I turned to face Mr. Jennings. You heard her. You can go now. Jennings looked at us, his mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. He turned on his heel and strode out of the villa, the door slamming shut behind him. I pulled Isabella into my arms. 1 month later, in the top-floor conference room of the former Vanderbilt Enterprises headquarters, I sat at the head of the table with Isabella by my side. Our core teams flanked us on either side. Data scrolled across a massive screen. An executive stood. Mr. Foster, Ms. Thorn, the final Vanderbilt subsidiary has been fully integrated. Their primary overseas hedge fund partner, Lehman Capital, officially declared bankruptcy yesterday. Our victory in this corporate war is absolute. The room erupted in applause. I looked at Isabella, and she was already looking at me. We shared a smile. On the private jet. Where are we going? Isabella asked. New York. Home. Will they accept me? She asked, her voice quiet. I squeezed her hand. It's not about whether they accept you. It's that they must accept my choice. The Foster family estate. The grand hall was filled with every core member of the Foster clan. At the head, in the most ornate chair, sat my grandfather, the current patriarch of the family. Mr. Jennings stood behind him. I walked into the hall, holding Isabella's hand. Every eye was on us. Insolent boy, you finally decide to show your face. My grandfather's cane cracked against the marble floor. I walked to the center of the hall, pulled a thick portfolio from my briefcase, and placed it on the antique mahogany table. I came back to make an announcement. This portfolio contains a complete list of my personal assets and the assets of the companies I control. Its total market capitalization now exceeds 30% of the current total value of Foster Holdings. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the hall. Mr. Jennings stepped forward, picked up the portfolio, and flipped through it with trembling hands. My grandfather's expression flickered through a dozen emotions. I looked around at all of them. From now on, I make the rules for this family. Rule number 1. I lifted Isabella's hand high into the air. This woman, Isabella Thorn, is my wife and the future matriarch of the Foster family. Are there any objections? The great hall was utterly silent.